It's like, I know we've had this call for a while, and it's like, but how did things go on your women's call last night? I just need an update, really.
Well, actually, it's really nice that you asked because it was a real feel good yesterday. Just International Women's Day itself always excites me. I was born a feminist, but I'm a pink glittery feminist. And I think sometimes that word gets a bad press. So, if anybody feels it's negative in any way, it'd be really good if they looked it up in the dictionary because it's actually really celebratory. And I know a lot of men that are really strong feminists because that's, what the word means to celebrate being feminine, which I do very much so. So last night was great. It was 7 till 8. And I did some prep and got some YouTube clips together that I thought were quite inspirational. The whole theme for the event that I did was inspirational women because it doesn't take as long before we can think of a woman that's been quite life changing in whether it's the simplest thing they did, like your nan cooking a great roast dinner, or massive historical changes because of certain female individuals. So my events are always informal and every woman is welcome to them. And we spoke about inspirational women informally on the call. And then I used the Dagenham video, which is really good. There's one that's like a summary, a black and white one, which is very quick, but I also ran onto the interviews of two of the ladies who actually took part. And I think it was recorded about 2 years ago, and they were elderly then, but they've still got the drive in them. If they had to go out on strike now, I think they actually would, even though they're retired. Great tenacity there. And they had a real fight on their hands back then. And it just proves that if you stick to it and you stick together, you can get results. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you can do it. So it was great. And also our equalities officer, Steve Rhodes, had some time in the evening just to come onto the call and introduce himself, which was great. Yeah, it was really good event. Thank you.
No, that's good. And I think, as a branch, it just shows the diversity that we're trying to generate within the branch because it's like, we have got some women. They are mainly desk-based workers. But there are engineers out there. There's female engineers out in the field there. They've taken the gauntlet. And I know that the employer, Openreach and BT, want to try and encourage more women engineers. So it's good if they feel that some of these events are there and they can log in and have a chat of like-minded people. Nobody's there to judge them. It's just a case of sharing, really, sometimes. And it's nice that you put a couple of other bits and pieces up there because I think I do feel sometimes that especially youngsters and some people don't always appreciate how women have influenced the union movement over the years. And like you say, the Dagenham dispute or whatever, that the women were fighting for equality of pay for doing the same job as men, and equal rights. I think that goes a long way. Um, and I think that's just one of those things. I think it's good if we can try and encourage and promote that a little bit. And I think, regardless of anything else, we just got to keep going with some of these things. It's a lot, Zoom, Teams, whatever video preference you want to go with these days. At least there's these things where you're not having to drag people away from home because people don't always have the time to go to a village hall or somewhere where you can all meet up. It's lovely to do it, but when you've got such a big geographical patch as ours, it doesn't always fit that people can do it. But at least with a virtual call, you can have somebody from Brighton and somebody from Sevenoaks on the same call and for half an hour just for a chat. So they're good workshops to start up, really, and it'd be good to do one in a few months' time just to prod people and just to say, anyone who wants to come on and have a chat about anything, if there's any issues, it'd be great just to keep it going somehow.
Well, we did actually touch on sort of the isolation that remote working has sort of induced, and this wasn't just for desk based because we were talking to a frames engineer as well, and she said she doesn't really see anybody these days. Exchanges are very empty. So I did actually promise that I would do another female event soon, but we're going to have a disco.
I, oh,
We're going to have an evening and we're going to have a few drinks, and I'm going to be DJ, so it's going to be fabulous. And have some flashy lights and stuff like that, just as a little social, so that the girls can get together, they can put their requests in, and especially for people who live on their own, they might think it feels a bit like company. So it doesn't matter if one turns up or 100, it will be an absolutely great event, as they always are. So can I ask you, Steve, do you have an inspirational woman that's had an effect on your life, a story from bygone years, or a family member that's just been so exceptional to you, and inspirational?
Well,
You won't have to think too hard because, women.
I did genealogy as well.
I didn't know
I
that.
found out through my genealogy that
I didn't know you were a doctor.
half my relatives were women. Who'd have known?
Very good.
No, but inspirational females because as you say, I like history. Boudica, the ancient Britain that took on the Romans. We go back to those times when women weren't looked at as the second-class citizens that the Romans thought they were, and there was a woman there. She given the Romans a damn good spanking. So
How did she get away with it?
she didn't. She died. She got beaten. In the end. She rose up in East Anglia. She ran the Thetford area. She ran up East Anglia, came down to London, burnt it. Went to St Albans, burnt that, and then unfortunately got caught. Got caught out somewhere near Coventry.
Oh.
And was killed. They don't actually know what happened to her in the end.
Something a bit more up to date is we were doing a little bit of history within the family on Emma's side, my wife's side of the family, around East Grinstead, and her dad's side of the family have been brought up in East Grinstead for many generations, and we found out that Emma's great grandmother on her dad's side was the first woman councillor, Labour councillor in East Grinstead. If you're going back, it's just after the war, I think.
Wow.
And she was responsible for pushing to get social housing built, and it was through her efforts they got 2 or 3 council housing estates built in the sort of after the Second World War in the East Grinstead area. So she was quite a prominent person to sort of push that forward at a time when it was mainly a male-dominated thing to go into local politics and stuff. It wasn't wholly, but it was, on the whole, people like that. But there's different people do different things, isn't it? One of the reasons I became a union rep is because I didn't like some of the laws that were brought in in the 1970s and 1980s under Margaret Thatcher, because that was one of the things that I opposed, and some of the stories and stuff that were there at the time. So, there are dominant people in life that have an impact on what you do, male and female. And I think it's interesting in reflection to see why you made choices. And as you say, some of the people are women, and but like you, I think some of the good stories are the ones like the Dagenham women who fought for equality. And even so, go back to the 1800s, one of the first unions set up in the UK. It wasn't the first, but it was one of the first unions set up was with women who banded together, who were working in the factories that made matches, and how they fought for getting better health and social care for themselves. So, I think women need to understand, if we're talking about women's issues, that they do have an impact. Women have an impact. They've got far more social insight sometimes than men do in what's a good issue to take a stand on.
And I've got to say, my best friend has been an inspiration to me because she used to work at BT. That's when I met her. And obviously her crystal ball was working because she realised exactly what was going to happen in the company going forward, because she decided to leave and took a package many years ago now. And she left school with no qualifications, and she went to college to do a baseline course where she got qualifications, and then she went to uni for 3 years and became a nurse, and she's now a cancer nurse, changing lives, which is where she would be better placed because she's a very special person. But it wasn't an easy path for her because she had a very young family, but she forfeited the money to be able to do a bit more in society. And she's reaped the benefits of that as self-growth. So she's an inspiration purely because the way she attacks hard work is inspirational, because it's a mountain and she just climbs it every time. And I'm really proud of her, and I'm proud to call her my best friend.